rolling tumors to roaring lampooners, the Tigers on a Roll show starts in 3, 2, 1.
War Eagle, everyone. If you would just stick with me for 3 seconds. The studio is absolutely jacked up. I need to make sure we are on the right screen because I just recorded an entire preview show and it was playing the intro. All right, let's go. That's perfect. All right, we are A-okay. If you tuned into the last one, we had a few viewers. Sorry about that. Horrendous. You watched the starting soon screen for basically 10 minutes with me talking over the music. So, I mean, maybe it was fun. It was like a radio show. Who knows? But anyway, War Eagle, welcome back, everybody, to Tigers on a Roll. As you know, at this point in the evening, the Tigers have rattled off 3 straight wins, sitting at 13-7 overall and 4-3 in the conference. And suddenly tonight's game against Texas doesn't feel like a must win for survival. But it's definitely, a must win when we start talking about seeding for March, which I alluded to in yesterday's episode. Tonight, the Texas Longhorns come to the jungle. Tip-off is in basically 15 minutes now that I've recorded this 3 times. But tip-off is at 6 p.m. Central on ESPN2, so go catch it right after we wrap the live stream. And Texas is a dangerous team. Texas is 12-8. They're similarly situated to Auburn, sure, but they're really athletic. They play competitively in the SEC, and the team itself is just really, really unpredictable. So you never know who's going to show up in Auburn today, and we will see how the Tigers respond. And I think that they're ultimately going to respond really well because I think that Stephen Pearl and Auburn has certainly found something. Which is what I want to focus on today before we get to the lines. We're going to talk about the method and we're going to talk about the money. And the method specifically is what Stephen Pearl seems to have changed tactically that has turned Auburn's defense from an absolute liability into a weapon over the last, 2 weeks or so. If you go back and watch the tape, especially from the Missouri loss, or even go back to the first game of conference play with the overtime loss to Georgia, you saw an Auburn defense that was just playing frantically and they looked like they were outmatched wire to wire. They blitzed a lot of ball screens. They tried to trap guys like 30 feet out from the basket. They lost a lot of guys out of the picks, and whether or not they were outsized, they just did not seem to be playing good team defense or really any semblance of defense whatsoever. And it resulted in a lot of open layups for the opponents. And it ended up being really detrimental to us on some wide open, corner threes when Auburn's rotation was really slow. And you have not seen that the last few games. And I don't think you're going to see it tonight. Steven seemed to have started changing the way that he's calling this defense in the Ole Miss game. And then obviously it worked really well against Florida. I think Steven has been able to kind of flip the script on what Auburn's defense is this season, and that is part of peaking at the right time. We're seeing more disciplined play across the board, but definitely on defense. They're dropping into they're dropping into coverage essentially. Instead of sending out the bigger players, towards the arc or even farther out, they're protecting the paint first and they're clogging up the lanes. And it's forcing our opponents to take really low percentage mid-range jumpers or really, really deep threes. They're not getting the looks as often as they used to right under the rim. And I think that is the biggest benefit for Auburn at this point in the season. And that is absolutely why they were able to close out that game against Florida. And their rebounding has been really good, and being able to clog up the paint like that puts you in a really good position to rebound. And that is not only one of the best ways to start your possession. You don't want to do it off the baseline. It's a lot better to do it off a defensive rebound. And in modern college basketball, if you can force a team to take contested shots, instead of those easy layups or threes that they're comfortable with, you start to win the stat battle and the math just starts working in your favor and you end up winning the game naturally. Like that is ultimately what is going to happen when you are leading in a lot of the key statistical categories. And defensively, over the last few weeks, our points per possession has dropped dramatically. In the 3-game streak, Auburn looks like an entirely different team on that side of the court. They're not gambling for steals. They're actually forcing teams to execute in the half court. And right now, teams are struggling to outscore us. Whether or not we can protect a lead is neither here nor there right now, but they are not outscoring us, and that is partially due to the fact that we are making them play a lot slower than they want to. And they are not able to drive and get easy looks like they were, kind of at the Vegas tournament and whatnot, and some of those games that we just got absolutely destroyed in. And how does that match up for Texas and Auburn tonight? Texas, I think, is a team that thrives on chaos, and Auburn is just not letting themselves play like that right now. They want to turn you over, and we've gotten the turnovers under control. They want you to get in transition. We have been able to score off of transition, and we've been able to defend. We've been able to defend on transition a lot better than we were, towards the end of 2025. And Texas certainly has really elite guard play. You've got one of their guards scoring 17 points, which is Swain, I believe, and then about 14 for their other guard, Mark. And that's all great. That's all fine and dandy, but Auburn's defense can absolutely shut them down. And Texas struggles when they're forced to go through other guys, and they struggle when they're forced to play slower than they want to. They're one of the worst half-court offensive teams in the SEC. And Sean Miller himself said the roster is not talented enough to have a wide margin of error, and their errors are typically that they lose, they lose leads by some combination of an inability to defend without fouling, which is great for Auburn, and late defensive breakdowns, again, which is great for Auburn. And their lack of consistent effort on the court is going to be the nail in their coffin tonight in the jungle. And if Auburn sticks to their newfound defensive identity and they can pack the paint and they don't gamble too much and they can force some longer possessions and score off of them, I think Texas is going to have a really, really bad night tonight. And I think Auburn wins this one at home. Right now, or last time I looked, Auburn was favored 6.5 points, 5.5 points, depending on where you looked. And the total was 155.5 points. And my read on it is that the money's being put on Texas to cover the spread. I think there was +7 for them. And I'm fine with that. But I'm going to take the Tigers to cover their 5.5. And that is because Texas has two wins and 5 losses against the spread on the road this year. They just do not travel well. And Neville Arena is going to be a place tonight that I think they are not used to playing. It is really hostile. And if you are a team that already doesn't travel well, you're absolutely screwed. And I think that's going to be the determining factor here, is the crowd and Stephen Pearl being able to scheme up this defense a little bit better than he has, a month ago or 2 months ago. And I think Auburn wins this one by double digits. It's basically a 50-50 split. I think 51% of bettors are taking the under, and so am I. I'm taking the under tonight. I think Stephen Pearl will scheme up a slower game than Texas wants to play. It'll restrict any runaway scoring. Auburn will have high TOP, and I think that you see a lot of contested shots that end up in Auburn's hands. So they will control the game, I'm assuming wire to wire. And I see a final score in the range of like 78-65, 78-68, something like that, which keeps the total comfortably under the massive 156 point total they have right now. So I'm taking the under there. and I'm taking Auburn to cover the spread. So I think that they win by more than 5.5 points, which I think is going to be absolutely epic for the Auburn Tigers and just continue this run that they are on, peaking at the right time. I really hope. The sample size is just a little too small right now. And that's going to do it for tonight's preview. Game starts in 8 minutes. I appreciate you if you're watching right now. Go get out there, make some, pigs in a blanket or something, crack open a beer, and go enjoy the Tigers beating the Longhorns. If you're heading to the game, I don't know why you're watching this right now. A little late in the day. You should probably get over to Neville, but make sure you bring the noise if you are. And also make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Leave me a comment on how you see this one going. Did you take the under? Did you take the over? Who do you think wins this game? Make sure you're an Auburn. If you're an Auburn fan, tell me. Which one are you? If you're a Texas fan, thanks for visiting. I'm sure you're taking Texas to win. I don't see it happening. But anyway, leave me a comment. How do you see this one going? And enjoy the game, folks. Sorry that this one was so late. The studio is still a little iffy here, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that. I can't even see myself right now. But anyway, like I said, thanks for tuning in, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the game. War Eagle. I will see you.